Not right now, you can come dig some.
Let's go. Worst case. Please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for coming tonight, and whoever ordered up this weather, thank you very much. I'm going to call the meeting to order, and the first order of business is my wife complaining already.
Yep. And one mic is broken. You gotta do the one breaks. So I'll get that fixed.
My mic is broken.
Here, we'll do that first.
Anyway, first order of business is to approve the minutes of the April 16th, 2018.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from April 16, 2018 as submitted.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Any comments? Any changes? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, Eric, I think you're up with the township manager's report.
All right, thank you. The Phoenixville Regional Plan is, the committee is working through another workshop. They had one on April 25th, and draft documents are available. The Economic Development and Park Facilities, Community Facilities Plan is going to be worked on as the next segment of that plan. We do have a link on the township website to those materials. Your input is important, so please continue to send your feedback. You can certainly do that to my attention. Regarding an upcoming big event in the township, Impact Entertainment is the promoter of the Country Spirit USA Music Festival, and that will be held at the Lovings Corner Horse Show grounds. That's scheduled for August 24th through the 26th of this year. The promoter will be holding an informational meeting for residents at the Hankin Library next Monday. That is May 14th at 6 p.m. So it's open to the public, and it'll be Q&A. The promoter is putting that on to try and answer questions regarding a variety of items. The chief and I are working with the promoter to understand their needs, and so that we can properly service that event. Will be quite something for the region. Please be advised, primary election day will be held at the Township Building next week on Tuesday, May 15th. The offices are open on this date, and as such, the Sustainability Committee schedule for that evening is going to be canceled. We're working on rescheduling to another date for that meeting. We're tentatively working out an Environmental Advisory Committee and Sustainability joint workshop for the purpose of discussing the Weatherstone Town Center plan. We're looking at Thursday, May 17th at 6 p.m. prior to the Planning Commission meeting, but we'll get that finalized and worked out. The Township and Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority did reach settlement on the sewer sale. And that was on April 25th of this last month. Township staff are working on sending out final invoices, and Bucks County is certainly working through the transition of taking on the operations and responsibility of the sewer plants. Let's see here. The 2017 audit presentation is going to be scheduled for the next board meeting on May 21st. The Festival in the Park event is coming up with this nice weather. Lots of events and programs are going to be taking place very soon. That will be next month on Saturday, June 9th from 3 to 7 p.m. here at Evans Park. The township newsletter for spring is complete. We have a PDF on the township website, a few copies here, and we'll be having those printed here shortly. Township offices will be closed for Memorial Day later this month on May 28th. Building and zoning, we've had much more activity because of the weather. Building is getting underway. We have 29 permit applications processed. The new treasurer in our finance department is working on that sewer sale final billing and transition and the April financial reports. The road department's working on general maintenance to roads and vehicles, and upcoming bids. We have bids for the paving of Schoolhouse Lane and Flint Road and the French Creek culvert due on May 14th. I also wanted to say thank you to the committees who took a turn and did a little display out here in our front entrance. We had the Historic Resource Committee and then the EAC do that, and currently there's a presentation on succulents, which is pretty neat. So if committees want to continue to do that, I think that's a nice idea.
Sustainability thinks they're up next,
Okay, very good then.
but we'll see.
Okay. With that, that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Don? Yes, Brian?
At some of the committee meetings I've gone to, there was some discussion or mention that there's supposed to be a sustainability workshop tomorrow, Tuesday. Is that true or not?
I don't think they have a workshop tomorrow. It's not on my schedule. Am I wrong? Anybody know?
Jen was gonna set it up, but
I
Yes,
talked to
she did.
Jennifer today, and I thought later this month it was going to be rescheduled.
it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
But we thought it was possibly gonna be a joint one between sustainability and
Mhm.
EAC.
Yeah, so if there's one on the 17th, potentially another in the month if there's enough activity to merit having a meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
but something may be coming up, just keep watching the
Yes,
calendar.
yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
But while we're talking about that, are they rescheduling their meeting for the 15th, or are they holding it anyway on election day?
I believe that they're going to cancel rather than having 2 meetings in 1 week.
So they would meet at the same time the planning commission is meeting on the 17th?
On the 7th, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say on the 17th, the joint meeting will be proposed to be 6 o'clock prior to the planning commission meeting at 7:30.
With the EAC to discuss and Weatherston.
Right.
Okay, thank you, because
Eric, can you have something attached to the back of that? Draft?
Yes. In addition, on the topic of committees, the Environmental Advisory Committee recently met and did put forward a recommendation regarding a Historic Resources Commission. So I wanted to provide an opportunity, this is their draft. I see Vic and Jane are here, and maybe they'd like to speak on that. The board has a copy of that recommendation.
You can either do it now, or you can do it after we read it.
Sure. Do
It's
you want me to
gonna
just make a quick comment?
Please do.
Okay. So at the meeting that you guys attended with us.
Mike?
Oh, sorry. Does this one work or do I have to use that?
This one's fine.
So at one of our EAC meetings, the supervisors attended, and there was discussion on forming a township historic commission so that the EAC could focus on environmental things. So a lot of our historic resources people put together this draft for the commission, the supervisors to consider, and we have sent that to you I think we've answered most of your questions. So, we hope to piece it in.
Gentlemen, we'll give it a review over the next couple of weeks at the next meeting, address it? Sure. Makes sense? Thanks, Vicki. Can you put it on the agenda, make sure? Any other comments on that? Yes, sir.
I wonder if it's changed since the EAC meeting, or is that the same one that was handed out?
There's like 2 or 3 phrases that we voted to change, and those were changed. And then there was an introductory paragraph added at the beginning.
And the HRC asked that it be sent out to them at the time the supervisors got it, in case they had any comments.
I hate to make you do this, but for the rest of the evening, we have to use the microphones. People behind you can't hear.
And if I may, for Kathy's benefit, if everyone could just please remember to state their name and their address as well for the duration of the meeting. It's really helpful for the minutes. Thanks.
Okay, John, I'm Sarah Schick, 1201 Davis Lane. I'm asking if that copy could also be provided to the HRC. I imagine you sent it to the EAC members, but since the HRC members are affected by this proposed commission, I hope that you would share the draft with them as well.
I think it's a great idea. Erica, can you make sure that happens?
Sure.
Thank you. Do you know why it wouldn't have happened already?
Because nobody thought of it, because if this is the first I laid eyes on it, does it matter?
I know it's the first time you realize it.
I didn't get that.
You want me to say it again?
Well, I didn't hear it, so.
You explain it.
I think she said, a comment about being, the first time that you saw your eyes on it. My comment is to Mike Schneider, are you going to recommend that this be placed on the township website so that everybody can see it?
That's a great idea.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move on. The next item is the bills list. Tonight, we're looking to approve the township bills list in the amount of $168,640.38. Reimbursable bills list for $19,539.86. The subdivision utility plant bills list in the amount of $37,731.64. All three bills list total $225,911.88.
I move that the board approve bills list dated May 7, 2013, in the total amount of $225,911.88.
I'll second the motion.
Any comments from the audience? Art? Don't forget to give your name.
Art Ewell, 972 Fellowship Road, Chester Springs, Pennsylvania. Under Cedarville Engineering Group, there are 2 entries there for residential code services, both on the same date and different amounts. Is that a amount that was paid in arrears? Perhaps the bill came in earlier, or what is the story there?
There are 2, I believe it's 2 separate invoices for 2 time periods, but it does say 5/7. Yes. Brian?
One is for review, and I believe one is for the plan reviews and one is for the inspections.
Okay, thank you.
I can just confirm that for you.
It's undated.
I guess that's, if you want to
Also,
left, one on the left is. This date is the date
That's
invoice
what
date.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gotcha.
I was going to say something wrong. Any other comments from the audience? Sarah?
Sarah Schick, 1201 Davis Lane. I did introduce myself to Kathy the first day she was here and said, but I'll do it for you.
You're pleasing Erica, not me.
I wanted to thank you for reimbursing my $20 for the table that I applied for the festival in the park that you chose to turn down. I appreciate getting the $20 back. Thank you.
Okay. John?
John Eldridge, 1634 Hilltop Road. One comment I would make, Danny Lane culvert replacement for $9,800. They haven't done anything, and there's no sign. Some surveyors are out there, but there's no sign of any accomplishment for that price.
Brian, you care to respond to that?
Cedarville completed the wetlands.
Mike,
Brian, it's not you.
Cedarville completed the wetlands, the field work for the, and report for the wetlands delineation, and also completed all of the field work for the site survey in April. It's currently being, data is currently being reduced to prepare the base plan. We should have that within the next 2 weeks.
you still got to speak up on your mics there.
So the base plan should be prepared and ready to work with in 2 weeks. And
For
that,
next year,
for planning purposes, for looking at the projects.
yes. So they are working on it, John. It's a big project, and I hope that's on my list to discuss later tonight, but that's got to be a priority, road and fixed, in my opinion. Anyway. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Next, we have a presentation by the Norchester Red Knights. Don't forget to use the mics, even if your name isn't Mike.
Hi, my name is Dylan Grumler. I am 11-year-old. I am a 5th grader at West Vincent Elementary. I love to play for the Norchester Red Knights. The Norchester Red Knights are in need of a football, uniforms, and equipment. Your support will help provide needed equipment to ensure a fun and safe youth football experience through the Norchester Red Knights.
My name is Alyssa Dinacola. I am 9 years old and I am in 4th grade at West Vincent Elementary. I am a cheerleader for the Norchester Red Knights. We are in need of new cheerleading uniforms and a new roof for our field house. I love cheerleading with the Norchester Red Knights. Your support will help kids in West Vincent and the OAG Robert community to continue to have quality sports experience with the Norchester Red Knights.
Hi, I'm Jessica Denicola. My address is 1385 Green Lane, Chester Springs, PA. I'm the cheerleading director for the Norchester Red Knights. I'm here to ask for support for our nonprofit organization. We are in need of a roof for our field house, as my daughter stated, and we support all the children in the district, as you know. We do get some support from South Coventry because our park is in South Coventry. But we're looking to go to the other townships as well because we are a service to all the children in our community. And we're hoping to be able to rally everybody together to help our organization. We're hoping you consider that.
Should we recommend this from Secretary?
Sure.
We may. Okay, thank you.
No, I'm good. Thank you thanks for having us tonight.
Thank you.
Are you going to check back with Erica for an answer?
Yes.
Okay.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Specific amount you want.
We have an outline that we've presented of what South Coventry allows us to use for their facility, what the amount would add up to. I mean, we don't have a specific amount, we're just looking for whatever you can contribute, honestly.
What is South Coventry contributing?
They contribute, oh, sorry.
Yeah, they'll start calling.
Yeah, I know, sorry.
Good job.
Well, they contribute a value of about $1,536 in the access of their land, their games that they allow us to hold. We hold 4 home games on their field. We also have a storage facility, which is the field house, that they allow us to use as well. Which needs a roof. Which needs a roof, otherwise our equipment will be ruined. We have preseason games that we hold there. We also have in-season practices that we hold there. That's pretty much it. We're on the agenda for, right now, East Lansing on Wednesday. and we're also on the agenda for North Coventry in a week. So, and then we're looking to, of course, expand to the other townships as well for support.
How many townships altogether?
There's 7, isn't there? I mean, I'm assuming, Warwick is small, I know that that's a small one. We're looking to go to one of their meetings as well. And, yeah.
So what's your total economic need
For
this season?
At least, yeah.
it's 20,000.
20,000.
Yeah. That's
And
just,
they've-
that's just a function, that's nothing extra.
I think they've had the same uniforms for going on 10, 12 years now.
Hers looks pretty good. I tried to pick a nice
Yeah.
one. For tonight.
So up to now, the 20,000 or whatever it was being funded by parents?
Fundraising.
Fundraising, registration.
Parents.
Yeah,
Donations.
it's hard. I had to do that when we were growing up playing ice hockey. Nobody knew what that was, so there's all the money and stuff.
Yeah, it's continual through the season and after.
We offer a lot of programs for ones that can't afford it.
Oh, yeah.
So
We
we
don't turn
have,
anybody away either. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
We accept all children, no matter what their economic status. and
Correct.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Next, we have the subdivision land development, Michael and Marilyn Joplin subdivision, 2120 Flowing Springs Road.
I move to approve resolution 18-2018 for minor subdivision plan approval for 2120 Flowing Road.
I'll second the motion.
Brian, does this deserve any explanation? Of course it does.
I'll go over this one.
Yeah.
You're still gonna call you Mike.
2120 was reviewed and presented to the planning commission at the last meeting. It was recommended for approval contingent upon addressing the comments in my letter from April 13th. The only comment in the letter was basically the outline of the waivers. It's a very simple transfer of property between two property owners to take away a driveway easement and make it part of their property. So we have no issues with the plan pending approval from, a conditional approval from the board, so we can move forward with wrapping everything up and getting it signed.
Any questions for Brian? Thank you, Brian. Gentlemen, what's your pleasure?
I make the motion, someone second.
You want to approve it? You ready?
Oh, sure.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Brian. I guess you're staying there for a reason?
Supposed to go up there.
Next one. Want to do the next one? It's number 5 in our program.
I make the motion to approve resolution 20-2018 for minor subdivision plan approval for 1286 and 1304 Hollow Road.
I'll second the motion.
You want to give us a rundown on this one, Brian?
Once again, this is just a simple lot line change to transfer property between two property owners to allow better access to their property. There's a list of waivers on the plan that we agreed to with the applicant in discussion with the planning commission. It's recommended for approval, condition upon addressing a couple minor comments in that letter regarding some notes in the plan and legal descriptions.
Any questions, gentlemen?
Nope.
Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 6, your turn.
21.
Johnny, it's your turn. Number 6.
All right, I make the motion to approve the resolution of 19-2018 for preliminary/final subdivision plan approval for Brincoed Farms. That's a lot line change number 2.
Is there a second?
Second, I'm sorry. I'm not used to second.
rundown on this one?
This is the lot line change for the preserved lot 5A, which is a one for road. It's taking two parcels and just reallocating it to make one parcel about 23 acres for a sellable lot. The rest of it will be part of the preserve, which is shown as preserved lot 5A.
This lot is not currently sold to private.
The lot cannot, yes, the lot hasn't been created yet.
Any comments, gentlemen?
None.
Comments from the audience? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Number 7. Canavy Trebian Lot 1 conditional use.
You've already voted on this, you just need to sign it.
All of us or one of us?
All of us.
We don't need to take any action then, Joe? We can just do this after the meeting?
Yes, you've already passed.
Okay. Next is the Weatherstone Settlement Agreement modification. Joe, we're going to need you to walk us through this.
Sure. The proposed plan for the wildlife, et cetera, that's pending before you now, has a small portion of property on the corner that was not part of the original settlement agreement, nor was it part of the challenge at that time. The proposed plan is incorporating that land into the development. And we represented to the developer in the very beginning of the process that we would amend the stipulation to include that plan if the Board of Supervisors were satisfied with the plan. So we went through the whole planning stuff and reviews and planning commission, et cetera, before actually adding this land to the settlement agreement. You can't vote on the plan tonight because they don't have the zoning yet. This would need to be signed by you and then signed by a judge. Then they would have the zoning they need, and next month you would take action on your plan. But before voting on this, I want to make sure you're satisfied with the plan that they're proposing. Because this would open the door to have their plan meet all our ordinances once you sign it.
This is for the 1.8 acres.
Yes.
So, gentlemen, what do you think?
I'm okay with the plan, so.
Yeah, I also second.
So, should I get comments from the audience?
You do a motion and open it up to the meeting.
I don't have one I relied on. Joe, if you wouldn't mind.
The motion would be to authorize the chairman to sign the settlement agreement.
I move to allow the chairman to sign the settlement agreement.
I'll second the motion.
Any comments from the audience? Harry?
The Wawa site is of Harriet Stone, 1645 Birch Run Road. The Wawa site is right across Birch Run Road from a Class 1 historic property in our township. That requires that they come up with a historic study.
It's a cultural impact study.
So we need to tell them that they've got to do that before they start doing much more.
Is there anybody in the room that might have heard that?
I heard that.
Thank you, good.
It's required to be submitted to PHMC.
Did you get that? You probably are familiar with these little quirks. But they've got to be adhered to if they're part of our...
Anytime we disturb more than 10 acres on a property, you have to submit to PHMC. We have no historic properties on, no historic resources on our property, so there will be no impact on our property.
Who owns the Bruner Zarizniak property now?
We do.
Well, that's a historic site also, and it's not being well taken care of. I'm very serious about the condition of that. Kate might have the right terms for this, but the Highlands District goes all the way to the corner of Birch Run and Route 100, and it is within 500 feet of your development. The property line is, they touch. They're within a foot of each other,
Kate knows this stuff real. One of our historic experts.
Good evening, I'm Kate Farnham, 988 St. Matthews Road, Chester Springs. There are two historic resources in close proximity to the development. There's the Highlands Historic District, which they just mentioned. The boundary of that appears to cross Lexington, possibly into the tract that you're developing. At least looking at the state website, GIS system, it does appear to cross into that. So that is a Class 1 historic resource in the township that needs to be considered.
It's shown on our atlas.
And the other thing, there is a house, the house on the corner of Birch Run and 100, and that is also, I believe, individually eligible for the National Register. If there's any disturbance to that house or to the intersection in front of it, that probably would require preparation of a study and submittal to PHMC under Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act and the Pennsylvania History Code. So that's what I know.
Thank you.
We're not proposing to store that house, it's not our property.
There may be visual impacts, that's what.
The law doesn't question what you're going to do. They question where you're going to do it, and it requires the cultural impact study. I understand that you could submit that to PHMC, and then we would have to find out that you had done it to get a copy of it, but we're hopeful that you do that study. Harriet mentioned concerns about the Zerikniak property. I have in my hands a copy of the settlement agreement, and I would suggest refer you to 32A, the existing house, barn, and other structures located on the Zerikniak property shall be retained and maintained in their current condition as of the settlement date by Henkin until conveyed by Henkin. And Neil's just said they still own it. When conveyed, the structure shall be conveyed under and subject to an easement in favor of. Well, this goes on and on and on, but it says they're going to honor the historic resource and keep it sound. The Pulte development, or the stormwater behind the Zerikniak barn, they've already destroyed one of the historic outbuildings. And so the HRC has put it in their list of concerns to ask that the code enforcement people keep an eye on this, and that Mr. Henkin provide us with their remediation plan. And to date, we have nothing. So I'm concerned about amending an agreement that they're not holding up to anyway. So, thank you.
Would it be appropriate for you to speak, Neil, or would you rather give it some thought?
I'm happy to speak about it. Certainly, yes, we do have a settlement agreement, and really with regards to the property, the Zerikniak, Neil Fisher, I'm with the Hankin. And in regards to the Zerikniak house, basically what the settlement agreement says is that we won't allow the property to be demolished through neglect. And it can be used for different uses. It could be used for a barn, it could be made a farm. Right now it's a farmette, it's part of a farmette. As far as the disturbance that was done to the spring house, that was part of a sale that was sold to Pulte, and that disturbance was not related to Hankin. It was not on Hankin property. It was related to a Pulte event. So we really had no involvement in that.
Sarah, you had a question?
Yeah, I do. I'm trying to page.
And just, I'll also just say, that our project, one second, sorry. The project, the Weatherspoon development, as far as what we're here for tonight, is actually less dense than what was previously approved, and approved as part of that settlement agreement. So I would, if the concern is the visual impact from the Bruner house from Weatherstone, it is actually a much softer view shed now than what was previously proposed.
And by less dense, you mean traffic or something? Because 240 apartments sounds like more dense than 120 apartments. How am I
From
getting
a
that?
traffic standpoint, it is virtually the same. It's
So
basic- from a
you're
traffic-
using traffic and calling it density?
No, I think when you say density, you have to compare residential and commercial and look at the whole package. Yes, residential density increased, and in a similar way, or I should say actually conversely, our commercial development went from 240,000 square feet down to 120. So yes, residential density went up, commercial density went down. I would look at it more in the terms of building size. And the buildings, the way the buildings are now laid in versus the way they were laid in previously gives the appearance of it being less dense, less intense.
Okay, so visually less dense.
The visual impact is less.
Okay, but you do agree 240 is bigger than 120? Okay,
I do agree
so,
that
thank
240
you.
is
I
bigger.
came back here because it said, until conveyed by Henkin, and it further says that when you convey it, it's going to have a conservation easement on it. So you conveyed historic property to Pulte and did not put a conservation easement on it, so you violated this part of the agreement. No?
No. The conservation easement goes on with the house and the barn, and we retain that.
And the building that was torn down was, the one I'm talking about, it's not the spring house, so I guess you got two of them. The one that you tore down that we were alerted to was the announcing booth for the original Levin's Corner Horse Show. So it was the horse show historic presence on this side of Route 100. So when the farmstead is included, and now you're parsing, so I'm just going to repeat what I said. I'm sorry that you're thinking that you've got an easy amendment to an agreement that they're not fully living up to already. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Gentlemen, we have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I wanted you to amend the motion. I mistakenly directed that the chair sign it the way it's drafted. I'm the actual signatory to it. So the motion should be to direct the solicitor to sign the settlement agreement.
I'd like to amend the previous motion to change it from the chair to the solicitor to sign the agreement.
I'll second motion.
Now, is there any comments from the audience?
You know what I agree on.
I would just like to see a paint on that series of buildings in the farmscape. They haven't had any repair, any care taken of them. It's not maintaining things.
Can we discuss this?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you hold off signing until you discuss
I'd
it?
rather not do that.
And so you're agreeing that you have no issues with the Phase 1 Wawa plans, but you've also just said that there's going to be a workshop for the EAC and the Sustainability Committee to have a chance to review those plans. So you have two committees, two of your prime advisory committees that haven't given you their input yet, and they're just now getting the opportunity in a couple of weeks. So why would you assume what they're going to tell you?
Bernie, you want to handle it?
Yeah, according to the settlement agreement, there's nothing that can be done further. So Neil Fisher, on behalf of Hankin, has given the EAC and the SC a courtesy to listen to their needs and wants and such like that. There's nothing that either committee could do or say to change what's in place already. Harriet?
But they were told they had to maintain the structures, and they haven't maintained them.
I mean, I think it's mentioned neglect there. I don't think paint would be considered neglect, is it?
Well, and
I have
probably
no idea,
some
but-
repairs to it.
There's more maintenance needed.
I think I haven't inspected it.
Excuse me, we can't hear you back here.
You're next, Jim.
I have not inspected the property. I just drive past it. I see that it hasn't had a fresh coat of paint on it in the last 10 years. It looks to me as if there are boards that are slipping down, that it does not look like a place that is sealed up against animals. It does not have, somebody needs to inspect it and tell them to maintain it. We don't want it to just fall down because they got other things to do. They promised.
Jim.
Hi, Jim Helm, 2563 Veronica Drive. Okay, yeah, I have two comments. First of all, I want to second the bit about, can we have more discussion about preservation of that farm? We've had a lot of discussion, probably 4 or 5 years at least. So yes, we can have more discussion, but we need more action in maintaining the farm. The portrayal by Neil earlier of what that settlement agreement isn't the way I read the settlement agreement. It's there on paper. It's not we can just keep it from falling over. It's more precise. Maybe I'm reading the wrong settlement agreement. So I encourage you to read that section.
This is the one they keep hitting us with, Jim.
Oh, I know exactly the facts there. I just want to encourage the board to look at that section of the settlement agreement and then ask yourselves, are they really adhering to it? That's my first comment, and I'll leave that alone. My second comment has to do with the approach Hankin has taken so far with the first step, and I want to just express my displeasure with a broad approach that's been taken. And that is that I felt it started very well at the Planning Commission when the Hankin Group asked for input about what would we be sensitive to. And there were a whole lot of people in the audience at the Planning Commission in a conceptual conversation. And one of the sensitivities is ensuring that the look and feel adhere of signs adhere to our ordinance. And that was a sensitivity aired by many citizens. Yet when they came forward and I said, can I see the sign package that is directly in line with the ordinance? Can I see the difference between what you're asking for? Well, we never did it. So there was a total, we got your feedback, township. However, we just ignored it is the approach. And I just want to encourage, we're at this first step. I don't really want to engage more in that conversation about, well, what are you sensitive about? And then let's just ignore it. So that's my concern with the overall approach. I would have liked to have had a more balanced conversation about adhering to the zoning ordinances. They didn't adhere to the sign zoning ordinances. We never got to see alternatives. It was take it or leave it. And I don't appreciate that, because don't bother with a 1-hour planning commission meeting to hear your thoughts if you're going to ignore it. Thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe.
Yep.
We are still going to have the plans in front of us at the next meeting and approve the ones that were recommended for approval by the planning commission, correct?
Yes. But what you're doing tonight is going to include that land into the settlement agreement that, for lack of a better phrase, lets them do what they want. So I want you satisfied with the plan before you take action on this settlement agreement.
Say that again?
I want you satisfied with the plan, because if you tell me next month, do something different on the plan, I'm going to tell you it's the settlement agreement signed by a judge. So you really need to be satisfied with what's before you to authorize me to sign this settlement agreement. As far as the demolition or lack of demolition of the house, Neil, is there anything that you can do out there that you can represent to us tonight that would try to address some of these concerns?
I'll take a look at it. I'll go over and take a look at it. If there are boards that are falling down, we will certainly repair them.
Any shot of
We
a
want to make sure
code?
that we rent the barn. I mean, we rent the house. The barn is part of the house. It's part of it. So from our standpoint, it needs to be safe. Not only does it need to not be falling down, it needs to be safe. So we will certainly take a look at that.
Regarding the signs,
They're big.
no, they're not. They were lowered. They did want something like 19 or so, 20 feet.
Over 20, and our plans came in at 14.6.
And did the planning commission review that, and were
What
they
you
okay with
saw
that?
you said was 18.
Have
Have you revised the plan since we saw it?
No, I have not. Mr. Schneider asked about the Wawa sign.
Yeah, it is 14. I was
14.
reading
The
that
big
yesterday.
triangular sign at the corner of 401 and 100.
The monument sign.
The monument sign. That was the one that was 18 or 20 feet tall.
That is correct, yes.
That exceeds.
Is 18 feet. No, that does not exceed your ordinance. That complies with the ordinance.
Mike, to everyone.
The sign that Sarah's referring to is, so the ordinance permits a commercial sign. So when you have a commercial district like Weatherston, when you have the intersection of 401 and 100, and you have multiple retailers, the ordinance permits an 18-foot tall sign. And that's, the purpose of that is so you can have multiple names on a single sign, so that the retailers can have their name out on the main thoroughfare. So,
Sarah, before you begin, I had a couple of comments.
yeah, sure.
There were two segments. I believe, Brian, you gave me 2 points that you had brought up that they needed a variance or change to. One of them was the trees, the selection of trees, because they were hard to find.
That's correct. So there's a section of the ordinance that talks about tree sizes. And basically what it says is that there's a minimum tree size of 3 inch is what is recommended. Because of the way when the recession happened and when our nurseries were actually planting trees. So basically what's happening is we're finding that there's a gap today. So we can find a 2.5-inch tree, and you can find a much larger tree, but finding that 3-inch minimum tree is difficult. So
I agree with that, and that is a problem in the industry, but what's the solution?
so when you look at the approved plan, there was roughly 400 trees that were planted on that. We're over 1,000.
And what size?
2.5.
2.5, or 2.5, 3?
Minimum of 2.5, so you're right, they come in 2.5 to 3. 2.5 to 3.
The other, I think my sign issue was handled. But if we were to agree to the Wawa sign as it was in that plan, there could never, I mean, there would have to be language, there could never be any, I don't know what you call it, advertising for foot-long hoagies there or anything, just backlit lights.
Right. You want to make sure that there's not the ability to have something underneath of the gas pricing that says, come in now and get your foot-long hoagie.
Yes.
Totally agree.
And will there just be one of those signs?
There will be, yes, there'll be one gas price sign. There was a smaller sign, a Weatherstone sign, where Wawa had a small, just an imprint of their name.
And what is the height of the Sunoco sign across the street?
I don't know.
Is your sign intended to be the same height?
If I knew the height, if you could tell me the height of the Sunoco sign, I could tell you if our sign is the same size.
So part of the interest in the cultural impact study or the historic resource impact study is that the ordinance calls for creating a visual scape that is in keeping with the historic district. When I asked you that question at the Planning Commission, you said no. So I'm still interested to have a professional help us look at your plans in relationship I'd be so glad when you guys get this historic commission up and running, because then we'll have people who can do this. But in the meantime, you've got the HRC. So, your turn.
Sure. All right, so anytime you disturb more than 10 acres of land, you are required, thank you, whoever disturbs that acreage of land is required to submit to PHMC, receive any type of, and get verification from them whether or not there's any type of impact. You have to do the same with sewer planning. We just went through a whole process of sewer planning. Part of that sewer planning process was submitting to PHMC. We did receive a no comment back from PHMC. We've submitted. We showed them our site, we showed them our property.
Could you share that with us?
Sure.
Thank you. Chester County Planning Commission is who recently pointed out to me that that is a National Historic District and should be respected as such, and that the house on the corner is a Class 1 historic resource.
You say the house on the corner.
The house across Birch Run Road, the house where you told us you're going to change the orientation of Birch Run Road into that yard.
So, no. All I am doing is going further away from that house.
So you're taking it all out of the Wawa side?
I'm taking it all out of our property. No impact, actually less impact, because we are pulling the road further away.
Where'd Kate go?
She left.
Just when you need her.
Explain that.
You
I'm
live
missing
in
that.
Birch Run Road?
We are. So you're familiar with the intersection of Birch Run Road and Route 100?
A little.
All right, so if you were on Birch Run Road and you're turning northbound, so you're going towards 510, it's basically like a 90-degree turn. So that interior radius is almost a point, and that's because there's no right-of-way on that side of the road. So now that we've acquired this that former ExxonMobil property, now we have land, and that land is on the south side of the road. So as part of the Wawa project, we are putting in a right-in, right-out on Route 100, putting a right turn lane on 401 onto northbound 100, and fixing that intersection of Birch Run Road and Route 100. So basically, in order to fix that intersection, in order to make it so you can make a safe northbound movement, you have to take it and pull that road approximately 20 feet south. So we are taking that intersection and realigning it on our property to get a better turning movements out of Route 100. And of course, PennDOT has to review all the turning movements, make sure that the design vehicles are able to get in and get out and make that turning movement safely. So that was the way that we achieved that.
Gentlemen, any questions? Nope. Jim?
I have a sense you misunderstood what my comment was. My comment was about their approach. So I don't really want to waste planning commission time with an approach like that. But I also would like to point out, because you have some misunderstanding of that their sign package completely adheres to this ordinance.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't, right, that's why I just want to be perfectly clear, it doesn't.
You know, I'm gonna object too, because both you and Sarah have said more tonight than your own planning commission meeting.
No, I said things to the planning commission
You
meeting.
might
as
have,
well.
but let's go time it, and I'll guarantee you that the tone has been a little different tonight.
Okay, I'll finish, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't misunderstood, because I was picking up that you felt it was conforming, it's not. Okay.
Sarah?
I'll put this one there. I'm sure that it was pretty clear at the meeting that I was not happy with the signs. And Jim did vote against forwarding the recommendation to you, as I recall. We weren't all happy, we reached some compromise.
No, my comment was, you've both said a lot more tonight than at your own planning commission meeting.
Well, there are more of you here. But I'm really more concerned about the historic side, because you're going to, because you're gonna do what you're gonna do.
Regarding the historic house, just so you know.
Use the microphone, Neil,
Yeah.
please.
Regarding the barn and the historic property, we made a commitment in the settlement agreement. We fully intend, in my opinion, we've lived up to it and we will continue to. So there is all the documents. I mean, all I can say is I'll go out, I'll take a look at it. Wasn't aware that there was any damage on the barn, but if there is, it will certainly be fixed.
The township, Neil, has identified a problem in the last couple of years, but it's been brought to a head, particularly at our last meeting, I think maybe the meeting before, that we identify historic structures, but then we don't protect them. We don't even do anything with them. We're trying to solve that, and it sounds like we've caught this one in time, so thank you for that. But I'm going to ask if, you've already given us a commitment. When you visit that site, would you mind taking Erica along?
Sure.
Zoning officer.
You and the zoning officer? Sure.
And if they need to wear blinders so they only look at certain things. I'm joking. Thank you. You'll get back
There is
to
no
us.
secret out there.
It's on my radar.
I just want to say this isn't a surprise to them.
No,
I
it's not.
believe there is a memo from Tom Morgo, who is like several generations of code enforcement back, that outlined some of the deficiencies that he identified. So this is no surprise. This is an ongoing problem.
I didn't say it was a
I just
surprise.
want
I was
to-
trying to eliminate the concern this time. Brian?
I'm going to go into the sign issue a bit. At the planning commission meeting, I believe, Neil, you said that the sign that you're proposing is similar to the one at the Wawa down there in Eagle?
Correct.
Okay, and that was my assumption. Then I looked at other Wawa signs around, like the one on 113. And the one on 113 stands up a lot taller, looks much more modern than the one there in Eagle. And I suggest that, the people in the audience go out and look at the difference between the signs. And in my opinion, as far as blending into the neighborhood, the monument sign in Eagle with, brownstone, fairly small, not standing way up in the sky, is, I'm going to say it's much better. It may not be exactly what somebody else wants, but, hey, at least to me, it looks like it blends in a lot more and it's a lot less obnoxious than, or could be considered obnoxious as a lot of the other Wawa signs. Oh, and I'm Brian Curry, my fellow Blackhorse Road.
You'll get to know Brian. Yes.
Carl Brockowitz, Hollow Road. The gas station sign, the price sign, that would, has that been dealt with, brought up, that would be an LED, the price sign?
I think that's what we're talking about. It was part of the planning commission meeting, but yes.
Okay, it's going to require a variance. We did this for the Sunoco and we turned them down. The idea was a bulwark, because the next evolution on this is a moving sign where the images move on the sign. So if we maintain a bulwark of no LEDs, period, nothing, then we have much better standing, I think, in that. So that was one of the primary reasons that we turned them down, the Sunoco, in the past at the zoning hearing board. I just wanted to give you the history.
Thanks, Carl.
We can keep with that, that would be great. Thank you.
Any other comments?
To drop before we go further, I'm not so sure, Harry, would you mind taking the mic? So are you satisfied from the historic standpoint, whether Neil and Erica going out there and identifying? Tell me, please.
It depends on what they come up with. I'd like to see care taken of all of our historic structures, and of course, some people can't afford it, but I think that Hankin can. And so, I think they should be being a model citizen. And maybe that would be better for us all.
Neil, is it within your pay grade to give us some assurances now?
I believe that you have all the assurances that you need. It's quite frankly, it's in the settlement agreement. There's an obligation that's there. I mean, I don't know, what type of assurance do you want?
That if anything is falling down, that you would rebuild, stabilize?
We will, I can certainly make the commitment that we will stabilize. Rebuild, we have to look at.
But this is your property, correct?
It is.
It is?
Yes.
And so,
I can't imagine that there's anything that has to be rebuilt, but stabilized, definitely. And certainly if there are things that are falling off, then certainly we will repair it.
And we're talking about the farmstead, all of the buildings.
Not just barn, not just house.
I think that's what's out there.
That's what's in the settlement
Barn
agreement,
and
it says. It says.
I think there are some outbuildings, some sheds, but that's part of the farmscape.
And
Now, this is not something I've witnessed, but I've heard that people who were buying places in Weatherstone, which had a view of this farmscape, were paying a lot premium. And now they've got something that's falling apart. So maybe I'm wrong about, maybe I heard something wrong.
There was not a lot premium on those lots. The lot premium was on the lots that faced the barn within Weatherstone.
Identify yourself.
I'm John Stout. I live at 309 Summius Drive in Chester.
Okay, well then I was wrong about that. Okay.
I can say that.
I have a question. Mike, on this signage, and there seems to be concern about the LED portion, can we just add a sentence to the settlement agreement saying the LED will be limited to gas prices?
Definitely.
Yeah, I was just looking up at Neil, that's fine.
I thought he was going to say no, and you were saying yes. So if you want to make that brief change, we can approve it tonight with that change.
Agreed.
And then I think that satisfies any concern people have.
I understand.
I just have a question. That was previously litigated by the Sunoco across the street and turned down, specifically the gas price sign.
The settlement agreement exempts them from zoning. So whatever we get from them zoning wise has to be in the settlement agreement, or codes don't apply.
Okay. So, but would other LEDs be exempt then?
No, this was part of litigation.
No, I'm sorry, I meant on their property. If they wanted to use other LEDs on their property, other LED signs, if it's not specifically dealt with now?
I don't think there are any other LED signs. And we're
No
limiting
other
LED
signs
signage to
proposed,
gas
and
prices.
I would think we would, if we wanted such a sign, we would have to return to the board to discuss it. This deals with only the sign for the.
And only gas prices also, so
That's
we can't do it
correct.
for anything other unless they're going to put it
I
on a
just
gas
wanted to be
station.
sure that, because I'm concerned that we're going to end up with a moving LED sign somewhere. We all know they're very obnoxious, and I'm just trying to keep the gates closed. Thank you.
So if you want to make that change, then I think it covers people's concerns.
And it would say to a single gas price sign?
Yes.
Right, there's only
Well, it'll actually have two numbers on it.
One sign.
One sign is what I,
Yes, but it'll have regular and diesel.
whatever it has, right?
right, so I understand they sometimes have 3 or 4 prices.
Okay.
Yes, Jane?
Jane Helm, 2563 Veronica Drive. I will say is I was just last week down, just over the Pennsylvania border, there's a new Wawa going in there, and I actually sent a picture to Sarah, and the Wawa sign had a stone base, seemed shorter, and was much more palatable to me. And so I was thinking, well, if Wawa's just putting this in, then maybe they would be amenable to something like that. Have you asked them anything about that?
That sounds like our sign.
Yeah, so I was thinking too. That sounds just
So
like
it has a
ours.
stone bottom?
It does.
Yes.
Yep. Brown stone.
Wawa's changing them all to that standard.
I didn't get out and measure, it's definitely taller than me, but anything's taller than me, but, yeah, but it was better than some of the other Wawa signs I had seen, so.
Yeah, the drawings were pretty specific of what it was made of and everything. Any other comments, folks?
Sorry, guys.
Sorry, I didn't see that.
That's okay. Suzanne Roth, 1360 Schoolhouse Lane. I do have a question about the lumens that will be shining in the Wawa parking lot. Many years ago, I had to make a 4 o'clock train out of Wilmington, and it was very noticeable as we crossed the Pennsylvania border into Delaware that the lumens in the parking lots were much lower, and it was much nicer at 4 o'clock in the morning not to be blinded by these bright lights. They were perfectly well lit, you could see anything you wanted to. So I'm just hoping that as we move forward, that we will make sure that the lumens are not so glaring. I don't know if that's part of our ordinances, but I really, it was like night and day, I cannot tell you. It just was so amazing to just cross that line and was like, hello, Pennsylvania, and welcome to Delaware.
Brian, that page in the Hankin documents made no sense to me. I looked at that and it meant nothing.
I believe when our zoning officer reviewed the plan, the current plan for the Wawa is compliant with your lighting requirements of this ordinance for its use. There are specific standards in the ordinance for gas pumps and for commercial islands and for drive aisles. And I believe if it was not identified I don't believe there's anything identified in the plan about an issue for lighting in the current plan.
Should we?
The issues, I mean, it showed you the amount of
Yes,
lumen.
there's a lighting grid shown on the plan, and the grid was reviewed based upon the requirements of the zoning ordinance. And the plan complies with the requirements of the West Vista
So
zoning ordinance.
lighting isn't fiddling with this settlement agreement. Lighting is per the ordinance, not the
Lighting
settlement
complies.
agreement. Thank you.
Yes, the lighting complies with the ordinance.
Are you Suzanne Roth?
I am Suzanne Roth. I only want to say one small thing. If the lumens are really high, and I lived in Weatherstone, I would be really unhappy if I looked out my window at 2 o'clock in the morning to find these overwhelming lights. We have enough problems with just regular lights, diminishing our light sky. When I moved here, I could see the Milky Way in my backyard. I no longer can see it. It's very sad. And that's just for regular house lights. We're not talking street lights. So you Weatherstone people, I would have an issue. I don't know where we fall on this. I'm just bringing it up because I really feel strongly about our night skies. And also the fact that we want it to be safe for everybody, but not so glaring that you are awakened in the middle of the night.
Thank you. Brian assures us we're not going to be awakened by the lights. His cell phone number is 484.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Kids are getting great civics lessons tonight.
I'm Peggy Glazer from 2990 Horseshoe Trail. Excuse me, I have a cold, so I hope you can hear me. On this agreement modification, this is one of my first meetings, so I'm just observing what's happening, and it seems to me that there's some distrust about Hankin's willingness or agreeability to comply with things. Whether that's reality or not, I don't know. But if it means waiting until Erica and somebody else goes and takes a look at the historic building to see if things are being taken care of the way they need to, if that would create the trust that's needed, my suggestion would be that you hold off on the agreement until the next meeting.
You dropped a paper.
Oh, thank you.
So where are we, gentlemen?
I don't think that has, I guess as a forcing unit, we can use it to make sure that whatever needs to be done at the house and barn, but they're two different things.
Oh, but it's the only leverage you've got.
Well, no, I think don't we have an ordinance that says you have to maintain a historic property? I thought we did.
We do.
It's,
Oh, okay.
forget about the ordinance, it's in the settlement agreement.
No, this house is not part of the settlement.
It is. Yes.
Oh, it
Yes.
is? Oh, shit. I didn't know that. Okay.
So we already have a tool.
The Zerigniak farm is in the settlement agreement, not the house near the
Right.
Harbor
Across the
Street,
street, right.
near the Hawaiian Ice place.
Okay.
I'm a little confused. So it's covered in the settlement agreement that Hankin must maintain these buildings, but
Well, the one that's covered in the settlement agreement, I don't know anything about this other building, but the one that was part of the settlement agreement, the one the township was trying to preserve is in the settlement.
okay. And there's outbuildings that you're concerned about?
Yes. I don't know how many, but it's at least four buildings.
4 buildings?
Yeah.
Is that too much to ask for you to allow us to incorporate this into any type of agreement tonight to satisfy that side of West Vincent Township?
This is-
To preserve the historic?
You already have it. It already exists.
In the agreement?
Yes.
Yeah, but my confusion here is, we're talking about one building, but the historic.
I would say, I mean, ask your solicitor, but you have, within the settlement agreement, it says the building cannot be demolished by the
building. But we're
Well,
talking about more than.
the building, the barn, it actually calls out the building, the barns, right? So they must be maintained.
Okay.
Okay.
Does that satisfy?
So it exists. The document already exists.
Right, but has the building, the document exists, the buildings are not being, do not appear to be being well maintained.
Okay, well maintained by your standard? I mean, whose standard is well maintained? And how many other structures in our township are of equal
You have a
maintenance?
list in front of you right now. I was going to give it to you in new business from the floor,
Right.
but
So these are all the ones that you consider not maintained?
Explain how they have to maintain it.
That is the HRC's list of concerns about demolition by neglect and/or properties that we're watching because they're green coed and we don't know what's happening to them yet, but we want to make sure that the new owners are aware that it's a historic property. So that's the HRC list of properties they're keeping an eye on now.
Okay, but these are properties that you consider not well maintained?
Number one on the list is the
And not all
Zerikniak
those
tract.
properties.
No, I understand that. These
No,
other
the
properties,
first-
are they the ones that you consider not
The
well
first
maintained?
4 are
First
ones
4.
that we are concerned about. The others are the watch list.
Okay, so what do we do when something's not being maintained?
Well, we have to tell the supervisors. So we had hoped that you were getting this, we've been forwarding it to places. But here, I've decided to bring it to you tonight because I wanted to make sure you were getting it directly. And so I was gonna do this later, but since it gives you information right there. The date of this agreement says 2007, so 11 years ago, just for the existing house, barn, and other structures, collectively structures, located on the Zerikniak property shall be retained and maintained in their current condition as of the date of the settlement agreement. So this is the condition they were in 11 years ago. Now, we didn't have an HRC then. We didn't document the condition of the buildings, but we do not see apparent upgrades. A neighbor considered purchase, the property's now on the market. So a neighbor took a child there thinking, is this a house we could fix up for the kids? Grown kids, family kids. But they went into the barn, noticed some damage inside the barn. They noticed some things. Now, I wasn't there, so I think it's great that Neil and
Is there any
Eric and
way
somebody.
to determine whether the structure has changed over 11 years? You have information 11 years
Well-
ago to show that this, whatever structure degraded X amount during those 11 years. And there's any way to show that there's a change and amount of change? because they had to maintain it in the structure, the condition that it was in at the settlement. So we have to identify that condition and go to this condition to determine whether that was done.
We probably have photographs. I'm getting coaching from two members of the HRC.
Mr.
that-
Chair, could I speak for a minute? See if I can circumvent this a little bit. With this situation, I would say put something in the settlement agreement, but it's there already. So what am I amending? It's already there.
So in the settlement agreement.
It's a matter of whether they're complying with it or not, and whether we choose to enforce it.
Yes.
It's not a matter of adding something
That's
to it,
right.
it's a matter of enforcing
And
it.
further, the applicant, Hankin, has already made a commitment to visit the property with the township manager and the township engineer in an effort of the township to enforce the settlement agreement, which required it to be maintained in the current condition. Sarah, no one else can tell us what that current condition is, but I'll tell you, it wasn't nice. It's not in good shape, wasn't in good shape then, it's not in great shape now. There's no requirement to improve upon what was there, but we have made a commitment, which we make commitments, we keep commitments here in this township. I've been to meetings for 10 years, we've kept commitments, so I don't know where the lack of trust comes from, but here we are at a time where we've made the commitment to go out, and we'll make the commitment to stabilize. And that's, I think, what everybody's looking for, so these don't.
We have that in the agreement.
That is correct, and it's right here in writing, the township, and this is, by the way, the first time in many, many, many meetings for many, many months that we've heard this as an issue in this, and I think it's fundamentally unfair to the applicant to do this now.
12th hour, right?
Maybe, well, but the township has had this issue on other properties very similar to this, so.
Sure, but we're here right now in front of you, and Neil's made the commitment, and we've made the commitment to take care of it.
Mike, the reason you haven't heard this is you don't come to all of the supervisors' meetings, you don't come to the HRC meetings, and you do not come to the EAC meetings. So
I
to
won't
say,
engage in conversation, I talk to the board, Sarah, thank you.
okay, but to say,
We don't need a lecture, we get it, we're there.
all right, so the question then becomes, if you go ahead and amend the settlement agreement, are you going to enforce this part of it, which you have not done heretofore?
Yeah, we should be enforcing anything that we have when it's brought to our attention.
Okay. So, Mike, to answer the question about what can we judge, when we were looking at the barn over on Brincoed that had a demolition application, we could see where rain was currently coming in. People who had driven by knew approximately when the wall fell down. So if we tried to collect information on it, we could probably get that. But we also do trust that the applicant, as you'd like to call them, will be fair with us. We'll look at it and say, yes, there is a hole in this leak, to stabilize it, to protect it, we've got to fix that, if there's a leak. It's just, we don't know, but we do have photographs of the exterior that we took when we did the historic atlas, which was published 7 or 8 years ago. So we do have a mid-data point if you wanted to look at those records. Maybe Erica and the township code enforcement person could do that.
Yeah, restrained.
Right, but I'm answering Mike's question about we do have some interim data.
So gentlemen, have you heard enough?
Yes. I made the motion, second, it's on the table.
Any discussion that you'd like to have? No, I just want to get it clear and out of the way.
I just have to say that it appears to me that Hankin will take a good look at this and at least stabilize it in the condition that it's in now. And I'm getting the two heads shaking yes. And my question is, will it satisfy? And will it satisfy the historic?
Well, the historic committee should be coming to us to enforce what we already have. So I think that's where it stands.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so it's our job to enforce what we have.
Yeah. So this of anything is the beginning of doing it.
Yes. The condition it's in now.
Sarah. Please. No, not yet, Harry. I have a comment that I've been waiting to get out. Not to beat you up, Neil, but yeah, you're still standing upright. I have a problem, I think as Carl does, with the variance sought after for the Wawa line. However, that said, I think their lights solve a problem where you don't have to go out and put up the numbers, and the numbers are just as large, and sometimes they're falling down. So in reality, even though I object to passing a lighting or
Digital.
variance, I think it's a better sign overall, as long as we're all in agreement that's all that's ever going to be on there. Because anything else would be
Too much. So it's going into the agreement, so.
Yep.
Done.
Done.
all right.
Our historic committee does not have photographs from the time of when this settlement went through. We do have photographs. They're out in the, we've got 2 copies, they're out in the foyer, and we can look at them tomorrow. And that would be from the time the atlas was being done, which was, Sarah says, 7 or so years ago. And we can send out on West Vincent Voices a request for any photographs from the time of the settlement was signed. And if anybody's got pictures of that, we'll get them to you. So maybe we could get pictures from the time when they promised they would keep it in that condition, but we can certainly get some from several years after that.
We're going to have hands-on inspection. Brian, wrap it up quick, please.
Yes.
On the issue of signage and lights and brilliance, I still remember vividly the first time I ever saw an LED sign out in California. And it was intensely bright. It was on the other side of the freeway, and it was blinding. And it seems that they've adjusted since then. There are some in this area that are very bright. The ones from Wildlife don't seem to be that way, and I don't know that there's any standards that lighting, that LED lighting is held to. Do you know if there are any, Neil?
So the township has a lighting ordinance, and really what it talks about is the lighting coverage to make sure that there is there's a maximum and a minimum ratio, because you certainly have more light underneath of a light, and the next light gets further, so
Okay.
to make sure that there, and basically what the maximum ratio does is it establishes an even coverage. It also talks to make sure that there's not light trespass, so the light doesn't shine off the property. You're concentrating the light on your property. So those are the types of things that the lighting ordinance covers, and that we did comply with. As far as LED, we are proposing LED. They're certainly more environmentally friendly today than other types of lights, metal halides, for instance. So there is, and so LEDs come in different colors. Different colors meaning the type, the way the light feels. Like for instance, a 3000 is a warmer color, and a 5000 is a more white color. Because of the residential components within there, we are staying on the warmer side. So does that answer your question?
Slightly partially. That, one is, I think the zoning ordinances were written before LEDs came into play. Even, and when it goes to the gas price signs, you're basically dealing with the red and the green color. There's the only two.
So I thought you were talking about parking lot light coverage.
No, I'm talking about the monument sign, the gas sign.
I got you.
And that, I don't know whether there's any industry standards for what they should or shouldn't be. If there's any concerns about that, it might be having to investigate whether they are and see whether it conforms, but I don't see that as a reason to hold up any potential approval of the ordinance sign. Just as an observation of, if there's standards out there, let's go and try to meet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Last chance, folks. Anybody have something new? John? No? And call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. It's unanimous, 3 ayes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think you, Neil, not to beat you up, I'm sure you feel, but they're pretty serious, we're pretty serious about
The barn,
the barn.
understood.
The farmstead.
I wouldn't want to get Harry away.
And then I think the last item on the agenda is as far as the Weatherspoon acceptance. Do you formally accept the plans?
Formally accepted.
Okay, so.
How do we do that?
So we submitted for the second phase of the Weatherspoon development, and that second phase being the residential portion.
The agenda says phase 1, but it means phase 2. Thank you.
Have you disseminated copies of this?
Your plans are here, Bernie, I think you picked yours up. Yep.
And these are to send out for township consultant reviews.
Say that again?
These are for you to send out to township consultant for reviews.
Okay,
We're taking.
very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we don't need to take any action on that? Next is a 16-year LLC subdivision sewer approval plan.
I move to approve resolution 21-2018 authorizing the subdivision of 16 years LLC subdivision sewer planning module to PA&E.
The second motion.
Brian, you have any comments on this?
This is the standard DEP form for the resolution for the board to sign, authorized tonight for signature, so the planning module can be sent for 16 years for their lots to the DEP. If you remember, there was previous planning on this parcel that the board voted to allow for the rescinding of for the larger subdivisions. Now, this is the planning module for the lots for 16 years.
And you're not done yet.
And-
We're going, this is part of the
No,
process.
this is just part of the process. 16 years has not submitted a formal plan of this. They see the sketch plan, they have to go through a zoning process as well as they're looking to do a environmental permit for a stream crossing and then come in for their subdivision. But this is part of the process they can get done because of looking to just create 4 large lots.
This is just paperwork.
Yes, this is just paperwork, but the DEP requires a resolution by the board for the plan, the planning module cannot be submitted.
Okay. You made the motion?
Second.
David, second.
Question?
Any questions from the audience? See, that's why he's getting the good parts. Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is a bid on the double chip and seal for township roads.
Yes.
I make the motion to reject Asphalt Industries bid for the double chip sealing township roads through the price.
Actually, I would ask you to revise that to reject all bids.
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to make sure.
Was there more than one?
So we
Yes,
received,
but I want to make sure we have this clear in speaking with Joe about the nature of the bid.
Mike's motion was not seconded, so it's off the table.
Okay,
Now
that's
go ahead
fine.
and explain.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we follow this in accordance with proper law, and I talked with Joe about it, so we do need a motion, though, that does have the price included with one. So, Brian, if you want to go through what occurred, and then we'll go through the motions needed.
Yeah, let it suffice that you're rejecting all bids based on price.
okay.
Leave it
Yeah.
at that.
Okay.
Okay. I make the motion to reject all bids due to price for double chip and seal township roads.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Now we can explain why.
Thank you.
No, we can't?
No, you're just rejecting them for the price.
I'm just rejecting them for the price. We're gonna rebid it and hopefully have an answer in how many weeks?
Well, we're meeting here, first, the June meeting, Brian?
I
Okay,
think that's how we'll talk with the advertising.
okay.
It's all right.
How many bids did you get?
2.
And they were hot, but they were bids.
Yes.
Probably means they didn't want the work.
And we didn't want to give it to them at that price.
But when you get bids that are unusually high, it means they don't want the work.
Okay, so where do we stand? We got a motion and second
Yeah.
to reject all the bids received for double tar and chip. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Now I ask for a motion to authorize re-advertisement and rebid.
I move that we rebid the double tar and chip for our township roads.
I'll second the motion.
Any comments?
I'm not going to ask you which roads.
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Festival Blooming Park request for waiver of park rules.
I move to approve the Parks and Rec Commission's request to for the waiver of township park rules to allow for commercial activity during the Festival in the Park event on June 9th, 2018.
Is there a second?
Before, can I ask a question? Sure. Making the motion. Is it just to allow commercial activity? Is that the only rule that is going to be waived?
Erica?
Yes, in reviewing the rules against looking at the scope of the event, it appears it's only just the commercial activity related to a few vendors selling food and maybe selling some art wares.
I don't remember ever doing this before.
It's proper that we do it, I think it's
We
just-
never did, but
yeah.
we should be doing it.
Yeah.
No.
No, this isn't for alcohol.
We did do this. We
But
waived
the alcohol in this room
we
first.
waived it for the proposed farmer's market.
Well, I know, but we haven't been doing it every community center.
I don't know whether we've had to do it for every community.
Oh, yeah, because there's always been commercial vendors.
Just trying to cover our
We
bases.
just want to do things right.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll second the motion.
Sarah?
Is there anything? Let's write this down.
Hey, if I have to use them, you have to use them.
Is it anything out of the scope of what we've seen before that or is it just making sure you're dotting your i's?
Making sure we do it.
Okay, and is it just for this one event?
Yes.
So we should have to do this every time there's any food vendors at any of our activities.
Selling, yeah.
Selling, okay.
Thank you.
Can we make that? Change the rules? No.
I apologize that I wasn't here for the entire discussion.
Your name, please?
My name is Brian Curry, 512 Black Horse Road, Chester Spring, PA, 19425. The alterations to the park rules that are being considered. Some of the park rules basically follow deed restrictions when the township got that property. Are any of the alterations bumping up against deed restrictions?
Yes.
And I ask that because deed restrictions, as we've heard many times in other land discussions, they go with the land, they go in perpetuity, and that's a long time.
Okay, and
Deed
the answer to that
restriction.
question is?
Yeah, with deed restriction, is it a notification to the HOA? Because we're taking care of that for Matthews Meadows, I know about that.
Now, this is with
Okay.
respect to the parkland, and I've got a copy, I don't have it with me, and I have to dig around to find it.
Yeah.
All right.
And I don't have it with me either, but it was part of the conditions of the gifting of the park from the Evans family to the township.
Actual deed.
I don't think that's the one you have to worry about. As I recall, when we were doing this for the farmer's market,
The farmer's market was not going to be permitted on the township park. The
exactly,
place,
and that was the problem. It
Well,
was actually Upper Euclid.
Yeah.
but we do have part of the parkland that was bought by the township, not gifted by the Evans family, and that's the 2 acres over here.
But
That
it was
was,
Upper Euclid's part that was giving us problems before.
well, that was,
Not the.
Josh, I can go and add to that, is that we were using the Upper Euclid's part because of these restrictions on the West Vincent part.
Well, that sounds,
Yeah.
okay, so then we've been out of compliance for the last 10, 15 years, or whatever, how long we've had Community Day.
But you still have to.
Is that correct?
I believe that there was an understanding with Newt, but I can't speak to it. I asked Yvonne to come tonight to tell us what she knew.
Wasn't the farmer's market, part of, it was a license to operate because it would be a regular occurrence and it would violate any zoning?
I think I remember it the way Brian did, because it was a commercial activity. It was moving the Anselmo Farmers Market up here, and it's moved back down there, but because it couldn't be on the Evans gifted parkland. But we had part of the park property that the township had acquired separately, and so that was.
But is that where the community day property is, or?
No, that's where Upper Uplands
Okay,
issue
let's not
came
worry about
in.
that, let's worry about what
Let's see if I put this, first, if I disagree with you, I think you're wrong on it. But the only way we're gonna solve this issue tonight is have Erica check it out and in the morning.
Hi, Maria Jacobs, 2351 Beaver Hill Road. If it's a problem, we'll cancel it. You know, if that's what people in the audience think that we should do, because it's been done for so many years at Community Day, because we want to do things right and ask for a waiver.
I thought I just solved
Just
it
saying
by
that.
having Erica look up the easement and following the easement.
And I don't think I suggested not to do it. I think I was explaining where it came from.
Anyway, okay. So, we're not gonna, we still have a meeting to do the rules change.
We have to rescind that.
Or table it.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess we could take,
Well,
right, we have time.
Won't you amend the motion to be contingent on Erica's review of these issues?
That's fine.
Because it.
Yeah, say that.
But don't ask me for
Okay,
the
so-
page, involved to do a title change.
I'd like to amend that motion to,
Approval of the waiver of the park rules in the event that it's allowed by any covenant that's placed on the property.
second.
That do it?
Whatever you want to do, you want to,
I think that's it. Any comments from the audience? Maria?
As somebody that's been working on getting food trucks and all this stuff for probably the last couple months, it would be nice to know if it's allowed or not. Because like, I have a life other than calling for food trucks, so.
We'll find out tomorrow.
Thank you.
You let Maria know too.
Oh.
Thank
Vote.
you. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Should I get to say some of the?
I can explain this last one, give you some background. I don't have a motion prepared. I just want to bring attention a proposal for a 5K. We are having more event proposals and different things, and I want to make sure that they come before review of the board. This is it's called the Hustle for Henny 5K. It's a nonprofit that would like to use the Evans Park on October 14th this year for a 5K that helps to raise money and awareness for addiction recovery, and they build a scholarship fund for that purpose.
What kind of recovery?
Addiction recovery, opioid addiction specifically, they have here. They provided some information to myself and to the chief regarding the map. They want to follow the course very similar to the turkey trot in years past. They did this event last year and used a turkey trot, and they required some assistance by the police, and they had intermittent closures of township roads. But this really, I want to make sure the board's comfortable, and with intermittent closures or things that the chief and I still need to obtain some more clarification from this group. So I can certainly come back to you with that. I just want to get it on your radar. So
What
they
day
had
of the week
submitted
are they
this.
looking for?
It's a Saturday.
Do we have any sense of how much it's going to cost us in overtime or anything like that?
That's the thing, we've kind of, when the turkey trot came along, it was a township event, and, you know, we just made that as part of our Parks and Rec costs. This is for a nonprofit purpose, but these are the kinds of things we want to look at in the future and have a more solid understanding, because, you know, events are great, but we want to make sure that we can provide for them. So
Excuse me a second, so when you say Parks and Rec, is there money allocated already?
No. And this is not a Parks and Rec sponsored event. They just came to my attention. And I thought, you know what, in looking at all these events, and especially with, I think, the country music concert, there's been more attention on this stuff.
Is there gonna be a concert?
So, what I can do, I can get more information, the chief and I can work with them, and I can come back, but I'd like to obtain your approval, once we know what kind of assistance they need, and, what they need by internet closures.
Would any of us object to it right now?
No objection.
If you don't, you could, approve it contingent upon the chief and I, work
If
with
we
you.
want to hear more details, but
Yeah.
certainly.
Okay.
We can be had on
All right. I didn't have a motion because I just got this information, so,
We'll put it on next agenda.
okay, that's fine.
it. Next, we're moving on to the public comment on non-agenda items. Harry?
This is, sorry, it's Stone still. This is, quick, just notification that Columbia Gas was going to be crossing some of our roads, putting some extra protection on the pipelines with some cable that has a power going through it, which evidently makes the pipes less susceptible to rust. They were going to do it last summer, and I've just gotten a letter from them today and spoke to their land agent, and he said now they're hoping to start in early June. So just be aware of possible road closures as they're following the pipeline from the pumping station. As far as I know, so far, they're just only going as far as Flowing Springs Road.
Thank you. Any other comments? Brian?
Oh, Brian Curry, I'm in the same place I was.
From
From
Harry,
the,
just staying.
from the last meeting, I was looking through this in the meeting minutes, and Erica this is concerning the road material bids. And you mentioned that, I think this was with the hauling dirt thing, that it's below the building threshold required by second-class township code. Is that below the 20K limit or below the 10K limit?
20,
Okay, so it only took the telephone bids then.
correct.
And I also asked at that meeting about the cost that Cedar Hollow was charging us in the past for dirt versus what the proposed cost, now, do we have a number now for the new alternate hauler?
It looks about 12,000 in total for the estimated tonnage.
I was looking for numbers in dollars per ton.
Oh,
Comparison numbers.
Yeah. I got your email, and I can provide that for you.
Okay. Looking through the website, I noticed we seem to be missing a goodly number of the township building videos. Did they disappear into the ether?
Nope, we're just getting stuff on the website.
Okay. And in the HRC listings, there's no meeting minutes there at all. Have you guys been?
They're not on the Parks and Rec either to look around. We've been sending them in, but
Well,
I just
are they on the website
You know
somewhere?
what, I'm
No.
so glad to have Kathy, and I'm so glad to have Michelle, and we're working on it. I know, we've got some things to catch up
They'll be there?
on. There
So-
were fires, and there were smoldering things. We had to take care of, fires until we can get to them. So-
Got it, thank you.
Yep, thanks.
The Parks and
Someone is looking for them.
Yeah, Parks and Rec.
Any other comments? Suzanne?
Suzanne Roth, 1360 Schoolhouse Lane. I was a little late this evening because I was out raking mulch away from one of the trees. And I'd like you to look at it when you walk out. It took maybe 10 minutes with 2 rakes, and I didn't get right up close to the bark to get really all the stuff away. But these trees are going to die the way we're treating them. They are suckering. They are rooting out. I couldn't rake everything away because the roots are coming up out of the ground. And it's an issue we've talked about before. Erica knows that I get very upset about this. And I just want to bring it to your attention because it's a waste of our time, our money, and our energy, and our trees and shrubs. And there's a lot of it out there.
I I understand.
Along with that,
I
I
do.
believe we ordered 45 yards of mulch. If we've been ordering 45 yards of mulch every year, let's cut it back to 30 yards next
I
year.
am fine with that, I have no issue with that. We're trying to fix the mulch.
But there are a couple of years
Not
without
even,
it.
yeah, let's just
but you're
do
without.
much less mulch being.
Hold on, I got an
I am
amendment
not
coming.
fighting that.
I could just say that you probably could not order mulch for at least a year or two.
Yeah, right.
It's even better.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Right.
Sit for so long. 2 hours sitting. Brian Sundermeyer, Natural Lands Trust. I'm just here tonight requesting an update from the township you folks regarding the purchase of the West Vincent Park on Brincoed. You guys had taken a vote last month, I believe, to proceed with the purchase and sale agreement, subject to the solicitor's review and approval. We've submitted what we believe are final documents. I don't know if the solicitor has had a chance to.
I looked at them, I have one with me tonight, I was going to ask the board to pass a motion. Now's as good a time as any, if you want to pass a motion authorizing the chair to sign it.
On what?
I move that the agreement of sale of the 72 acres at Bridco-Ed is signed by our chair.
And the amount of?
Well, I don't know what you got this, so 900,000? Signed for
$950,000, and it's the purchase and sale agreement. It would be the document to be executed.
Yeah, I'd like to get this out of the way.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Brian.
Any comments from the audience?
Thank you, everybody.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Note that was unanimous.
Erica has a signatory copy for you to sign.
See, all you had to ask.
I guess.
I was going to bring it up when they got to the, after public comment, I was going to bring it up.
Okay, oh, I didn't know that. So, and I thank you. You've been great to work through.
You
through
folks
this
have been
process.
great to work with also. It's been almost fun.
Yeah. Almost. Well, I've enjoyed it, and I'm glad we've gotten to this point. But there's only one signature required. So, thank you.
But when do you want to check?
Can't wait for that.
I guess I'll come back and ask for that, won't I?
Bring in your checkbook? Yeah, you got it. Loose change, right?
By the way, I brought a clean copy too, if you want 2 originals.
Oh, okay.
You want to sign 2 originals?
Yeah,
And then I'll
that'd
bring
be great. Good
one
idea.
original back to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sharon?
Yeah, and we'll keep seeing Brian around because he'll have more lot line changes or subdivisions or something. So I already handed out the HRC's concern list about some properties that are appear to be suffering from neglect. The first 4, we had given this list several months ago to the code enforcement, to Tracy, whatever her job is, code enforcement. Zoning. And she and Frank were aware of it, so we hope that they're looking into all of those. But now that we started doing this, people have spotted another house on 100 and the house across from the unfinished Wingate Drive part on 401. So we are adding to it, and this is going to be part of the ongoing work of some historic group in this municipality to work on it. And so I wanted to give you the information because I wasn't sure it was getting to you.
So I'm glad you brought this up, because I was going to if you hadn't. But what is the, let's say, governing body in the township that actually is in charge of bringing that information to us so that we can put pressure on those who need to be doing their jobs to make sure that these historic
As
buildings
of
are taken care
today,
of?
it's the EAC with the support of the Historic Resources Committee. When you guys create a historic commission, they'll be doing that.
Okay.
I've got such a big to-do list for that committee. I can't wait, commission, I can't wait for you to do that so we can turn over the stuff that our volunteers are wearing out on.
The zoning office is going to be
They're
an
keeping
integral.
very busy on these items.
Thank you. I've just handed you the brochure for the Chester County Historic Preservation Network. Thank you. The township is a municipal member already. I'm not looking for money. I'm just giving you information about a group that provides support to historic committees, commissions, and ARDs in the county. And you've already paid for our membership for this year. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions about the worry and watch list?
This is great.
My only concern is that these guys, all of you involved, scream loud enough and often enough.
Well, we submitted this to Tracy. We asked that Tracy and Frank give us an update by the 25th so that we can review it at the next HRC meeting so that we can give it to the EAC at their next meeting. So we've got a lot of layers now, but we are trying to keep everybody in the loop.
But not too much that you're going to step on each other's toes and nothing gets done.
Oh no, Vic's happy to have us do it.
Yes,
Well, I know.
environment, EAC.
So, yeah. The only part of their toes they want is to boot this over to somebody else. So.
Good, thank you. Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Jane?
Jane Helm, 2563 Veronica Drive. It's been quite a while. I voiced concern about the blinking lights at the corner of 401 and South Chester Springs Road. I was wondering what the status was on that.
I know they got another
Yeah.
complaint last Friday.
I'm sorry?
You got another complaint last Friday.
Yes, and PennDOT got our complaint. They have it as a work order, we keep putting pressure on them to get it fixed. So it's theirs right now, they say they're getting it done.
But you guys
and it's been
are, you
weeks
guys
and
are
weeks.
pushing them? That's
We
all I
are,
wanna-
we
okay.
are, yes.
That's fabulous, thank
Are
you.
we talking about just batteries in
Yes.
these lights?
Well, I know it's
One of
crazy.
them's, one of them's
Yeah.
missing because somebody knocked the whole
I
stop
saw-
sign
I know,
over, so,
yeah,
and
I
then
know.
I think the light was crushed, they
Well,
put the stop sign back
Yep.
up.
Right, one light is dangling. but
One is
the other-
dangling, one is missing, and
I
all
know.
of them are out.
Yeah.
I don't know, so.
Yep,
Okay, thank you.
It
You're
makes no
welcome.
sense at all.
I know.
Any other comments from the audience?
Yeah, would we be stepping on anybody's toes if we had our road crew?
That's what I asked Erica a
Well,
month ago.
Well, you
Yeah, let's
know,
not do that.
yeah, you touch their stuff, you become liable.
Yeah.
Can't touch their stuff. We need a solicitor for that. Okay.
I move to adjourn.
Yes, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion. Second.
All those in favor? Thank you for coming. Brian, too?
Oh, you said speed, okay.
Speed limit sign. And it's straight across from the, straight across. Straight. But, and somebody called PennDOT, PennDOT says if it's 40 or above, they do have to. So, but they said they're going to come back and fix the alert signs on the bridge, but they don't.
Okay. I can't make that meeting. I know it's shifted. Okay.
Do I have to read your
I just want to let everybody know.
Right, right.
My name was done there, 2007.
Right, I hear you. I know.
And I was asked to hear and said, Trump
Because they've done it
except that the voters aren't gonna understand when these guys come up for an election,
Yeah.
you let this go. Even though
Yeah.
Some other bridge.
That's a good one. Let me see, if not Joe,
And we're gonna have to have another
and I know it's like shooting is one agency.
whatever funds we have.
Sure, meeting start at 5:30, but they go, you know.
No, I get it, that's a lot.
All
All right,
Put it in the bill, like if we're gonna do it to me. And then we'll have a third meeting where we actually discuss it.
Portion of it is, portion of the state.
What we're doing.
Yeah, so it depends. Okay.
I hope not. Leaving here without my sensual.
Okay, all right. Okay. Okay. The trail crossing, that's a pretty good township. Yeah, so 401, I'm sorry, you're something in fellowship, right here. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just yeah, the alignment of the repair, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I know. No, yeah. Yeah, it's tough, I know, and when they did that, for whatever reason, when they did that project, I don't know, historic reason, clearance reason.
Does that make sense?
The alignment, but it is still a jutting, I mean, those motorway stuff helps it cars, yeah. But it's, yeah, I know, yeah.
It's a 6-figure grant, I don't know if that's 1, 2, or 3.
Don't call me about the covenants, because I'll have to do a title.
I'll look into it.
We got a grant.
Just say yes, who the hell's going to want that? I wouldn't even put it on the agenda. Thanks.
You guys.
Mike was just telling me that there's gotta be a suitability employee that's on this new
But I do want to address, I would address the, dirt road.
I saw one thing, this 24-hour store, that is actually a sewer.
I didn't know that we lost.
Yeah, I know.
You know, there's something about pulling up. So this is 2016 report. You can have, no comment to
That's still for.
take no comment.
That's what we got.
I'll see you.
Good night, Joe. Joe. You got it, man, it's fun.
I was just on here.
Your name could have been Neil.
Ordinarily, you have one nut job in every town. Everyone knows who it is.
Now it's the chairperson, it's the
Okay, all these things they have signed.
A nut job for me to do this shit.
It's fun, don't you think?
Yeah.
I go to a restaurant and have a few chickens.
That's what we should do. We should serve some wine out here.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I drink vodka.
I don't drink wine, so whiskey, that's it.
I drink either wine or vodka.
Hold on, would that break that covenant we're looking for?
Talk to Tom.
You're not selling it.
That's right.
Sharing.
Share.
You have a couple vodkas and we'll zip right through this shit.